I was looking at this ebook published by Unity, which in here they talk about lighting and environments in the high definition render pipeline. So this is quite a large book, 183 pages. And if you go through the summary here, you can check that they have a lot of information, example scenes, and whatnot. Everything is very well explained in detail, so you can take a look at how to install everything, how to use it for different scenarios, and yeah, just have fun with everything that you can do with high definition render pipeline. But I was looking at this section. If you search for water, there is an introduction to the water system, and there is a video online, a short video from Unity, where they also talk about water tools in Unity, especially for creating rivers and oceans, and also pools and small bodies of water as well. So you can read these and take a look at the examples. Everything looks cool. But I was looking at the video with these swimming pools and the water, and I thought, well, let me try that. But of course, when I wanted to try that, I didn't want to try it in just like a tube or something, like a pipe full of water. I wanted to actually use it with one of these swimming pools because I thought it would be fun. So I just decided to make some a pool generator in Houdini, or kind of like a pool generator, because it's not really a tool to create swimming pools procedurally, but kind of semi-procedural, because I didn't want to waste a lot of time just building something more robust. So anyway, I found online this, which is kind of like, I basically Googled for pool shapes or fancy pool shapes or something like that, and I ended up with this image, which is pretty cool. It gives me like a bunch of random shapes that I can use for building my pools in Houdini in a almost 100% procedural way. I couldn't find a better quality image, and if I wanted to do this for real and do it properly, I would basically take this into Photoshop or any other image processing tool, and I would vectorize all of these pool shapes, and that would give me, a super high quality shape definition for each of the pools. But because I'm lazy and I didn't want to do that, and also because I don't have Photoshop in my computer, I just use this, right? So I took that into Microsoft Paint, which is, an amazing tool. And I just did this, right? Just playing a little bit with contrast and levels and all of that. And I got these shapes, which of course they are horrendous because they have artifacts and pixel issues everywhere. Oops. But I actually don't care. Right, I can kind of fix that in Houdini. It will take me maybe a little bit more time because I need to fix the artifacts that I'm gonna get from these images. But again, I didn't want to spend time doing it properly. So here in Houdini, I just created like something very quickly. So I have a trace node where I'm looking for that image, those shapes.jpg. And I ended up with this, which if we take a look at the points, of course, it looks horrible. These lines are not perfect, but we need to live with this for now. All right. So here I made a group. Let me get rid of all of that. I made a group where I selected the shape that I wanted. And of course, all of this could be 100% procedural. I can run this group with a top network and do every single of these shapes automatically. But again, my whole point here was to have something very quick in Unity for testing the water system. So I actually, I was lazy. I didn't want to do this properly. Anyway, here's my shape. I'm just blasting it here. So this is the piece that I'm going to work with for now. Of course, this is somewhere in the wall, so I'm just using a match size here to put it in the origin of the scene. And then I'm using this transform here, where I'm increasing the size of this shape by 100, because I was thinking that maybe it is a good idea to work with something that could be an actual garden pool in terms of size. All right, so that's my human reference there. Because we have these artifacts and other things, and again, we wouldn't have to do this if we had a proper image, but because I don't have one, I'm just using a delete small parts here that will get rid of some of these tiny artifacts there. And then I will do another pass where I'm deleting by hand some of the most ugly artifacts that are connected to the main piece. So by doing that, I kind of got rid of all those things. We still have the issue that this shape is terrible, right? But I'm using a resample here. So we're going from this resolution to that, and then we're evening out the distribution of the points, smoothing that out, and that gives me a shape that is actually not that bad, right? Pretty sure it's not perfect by any means, but yeah, I mean, if we compare these with this, there is a huge difference there, right? Okay, cool. From there, I'm just adding an edge group using unshare edges. So this will work with all the pool shapes that I have here. And this will select the perimeter of this pool. Then I will poly extrude it. And this would be basically the border or the edge of the pool. And what you see in the middle, that would be the water surface. This is what I'm selecting there, extruding that down. And here I'm basically deleting everything that is the border, right? Because down this stream, I just want to create the container, if you will, right? So this would be the walls, and this would be the border, and then the floor of the pool. But yeah, I'm gonna get rid of the floor. I could actually keep it in the same geometry, or I can just get rid of it because maybe I want to treat it in a different way, or just using different textures or whatever, and maybe it's easier to work with different geometries, or maybe not. I don't know. We'll figure it out later. Then I'm selecting a row of polygons here, which I'm also poly extruding, because I want to make this difference here where we have the border, it goes in a little bit, and then here we start the actual walls of the pool. To give it a little bit more realism here, I'm just going to select those edges and create a bevel, right? So now we have a nice rounded border and subdivided everything. And we ended up with this, right? Which is the main shape of the pool. All right, great. Here on the side, I had blasted the water surface, just creating some UVs for it, giving it a color. And at the end, I'm just using a group delete because there are group nodes over there and those are carrying information and I don't want any of that. So here is my water surface that I'm going to use later in Unity. Here we were working on the walls. Kind of the same thing. I'm going to select the perimeter of the border. I'm going to poly extrude it to give it a little bit of thickness, right? So we're going from here to there. Then I'm going to select the top edge and also give it a little bit of roundness there with a poly bevel. All right. And the issue that we have here is that, you know, these normals are in the right direction. These are not. but maybe we want to see this. I don't think so, because it's going to be underground, but just in case, I'm going to give it a little bit of thickness. So now this is all thick and is watertight as well. Deleting all those groups, and then I'm going to make a distinction here where we have the actual walls and then we have the border. And the only reason that I'm separating this is because I'm a little bit lazy and I just want to have separated objects for assigning different materials. I could do it in many other ways, but this is the fastest one. Here on the side, I just place a grid, which would be the ground. I'm going to scale this accordingly with the pool, create some quick UVs here, and I'm going to boolean this from this. So I basically get that. Then I can delete the middle section and I will end up with this, right? And finally here on the right part of my script, I just made these steps that are placed basically here. All right. Then I have an object merge where I'm combining everything. So this is my little piece, and then I'm just adding some dummy materials. So I get like distinctions of my materials. So with this, I'm just going to export it as FBX, save to disk, and now we're ready to work in Unity. Here I have the Unity hub, and I just installed Unity 6.0 beta. So from here, I'm just going to create a new project, a new 3D high-end high-definition render pipeline project. I'm going to download the template because I haven't downloaded this before. And yeah, now here in this location, I'm just gonna create a new project that I'm gonna call Pools Unity 6. Create project, and this should launch Unity 6, and it will set up everything for me. So once Unity has launched, I want to change a couple of things because, this is a small project. I don't care too much about performance. So I want to render everything using ray tracing, real-time ray tracing. So let's configure that quickly. If I go here to the high definition render pipeline plus DXR, this will take care of everything related with ray tracing, and Unity will fix most of things automatically. So when you see that you have some warnings, you can actually click on fix all, and Unity will take care of that automatically. There are a bunch of things here, and these are project settings or project preferences that you would have to change manually. So, even if you click here on fix, you still need to enable those things manually. But aside from these, all the settings for real-time ray tracing are enabled. So we should be able to close this high definition render pipeline wizard. All right. So this sample scene, this outdoor scene should be all good. I'm just going to save and we can use this scene. But I was saying before, we actually need to create or to change some settings in the render pipeline to get real-time ray tracing. I'm going to do something here, and I'm just going to create an empty object that I'm going to call dummies. And then inside, I'm going to create a plane. Great. And I'm going to create also a sphere that I'm going to move 0.5 units in Y. So we have this sphere here. Okay, that's all good. I'm gonna move it slightly to the right, and I'm gonna duplicate that one with Control D to have another one on the other side. And I'm gonna take my sunlight, enable gizmos, just to be able to see it better. And I'm just gonna rotate it a little bit. Just something like that. Okay, great. So this is my dummy scene, just to check that ray tracing is actually working as expected. Here in my project, I'm going to create a new folder that I'm going to call art. And inside, I'm going to create a couple of dummy materials. So I'm going to start with a gray material, and I'm going to set the color to a 50% gray with very little smoothness. We haven't assigned this material yet to anything, so let me assign it to the plane, and I'm going to assign it to one of the spheres as well. I'm going to get rid of my construction plane. There you go. And then, as I was saying, in the material, I'm going to reduce the smoothness quite a lot. I'm going to give it just a little bit of specular, like 0.1, and that should give us a pretty decent mid gray value. I'm going to create a new material. Create material, and this is going to be a chrome material just to check my reflections. Assign it to the other sphere, and let's use the metallic value all the way up, and smoothness, I'm not going to go all the way up because I don't want a full mirror, but something around the lines of 0.95. Okay, great. So as we can see here, we're not using ray tracing just yet because we don't have bouncing lighting. We don't have ray tracing reflections or anything like that. So let's make sure that all of that is working appropriately. So I'm going to go to Edit, Project Settings. And if we go here to Graphics, here we can see that the default render pipeline is this one here, High Definition Render Pipeline Asset. You can have as many render pipeline assets as you want in your scene, but this is the one that we're using. So let's change a few things here. So here in the inspector, I'm gonna display this rendering flag and real-time ray tracing. This is something that I want to enable. Then if I go to the lighting tab, we can see that screen space ambient occlusion is already activated, but screen space global illumination is not. So I'm going to enable that. What else can we enable here? I guess we could enable volumetric clouds as well. We want to go to reflections and enable screen space reflections. And probably in shadows, we want to enable screen space shadows as well. Okay, I think that's everything that we want to change here in the render pipeline asset. So by doing this, we have enabled ray tracing capabilities in the asset, in the rendering asset that we're using with high definition render pipeline. Okay, great. Now, if we go to edit project settings, if we go to quality and high definition render pipeline, here we can have multiple presets, if you will, for your high definition render pipeline. In our case, we're using high definition render pipeline high fidelity because, you know, we care mostly about visual fidelity here. So let's enable all these ray tracing capabilities in the actual preset that we're using here. So real-time ray tracing, this is enabled already because the high definition render pipeline asset is taking care of that. Great. If we go to lighting, we can see that screen space ambient occlusion is enabled. Screen space global illumination is enabled. That's great. Let's enable volumetric clouds as well. Screen space reflections. And finally, we should get also screen space shadows. Okay, that's gonna compile everything that is needed. It should take only a couple of seconds. Okay, this is all done here. And now we should be able to start seeing things. So as you can see here, we're seeing reflections already. We can see the sphere. The gray sphere is reflected here, but that is actually not using ray tracing yet. Because as you can see here, if this sphere is outside of my field of view, it's not being reflected, right? This is not what we want. So now let's go to the sky and fog volume. This is basically the overrides that you will encompass in a given volume. In this case, the volume is set to global, meaning that it's going to affect the whole scene. So let's minimize all of these things that we have here. And what I want to do is add an override. I'm going to go to lighting. And here I'm going to enable screen space global illumination. The state is going to be enabled. And for tracing, I don't want to use ray margin. I want to use ray tracing. Okay, so now we have global illumination using ray tracing. In the bounce count, I'm going to increase this one to perhaps 2, even 3. This is an exterior scene, so I don't think it matters that much. But of course, this would get you basically the amount of rays that are going to bounce around the scene. So for an interior scene, this will play a huge part in getting a nice image. I'm going to enable also screen space refraction. Yeah, it's already activated. And finally, screen space reflection. We're going to enable it. And here it says the current high definition render pipeline does not support transparent screen space reflection. That's because we forgot to enable it before. So I'm just going to click on open. And here I'm going to enable transparent. And that should take care of this. Okay, I'm going to enable and use ray tracing. Great. So now as you can see, now we are ray tracing reflections as well. So you can see that sphere is perfectly reflected in the other one, even if it's outside of my field of view. Okay, fantastic. I'm gonna select my light. In this case, I only have this light over here, which, you know, it's using the sky and fog volume, and the sky and fog volume is using the physical base sky. So I can create a really nice lighting just by rotating that light. But what I want to do here, I want to go to the shadows. I want to enable screen space shadows and ray trace shadows. And that's going to give me a very nice ray tracing shadows. If you compare the traditional shadow maps with ray tracing shadows, obviously the quality is much better when using ray tracing, right? So let's use ray tracing. Okay, great. So I think that's pretty much everything that we need, right? Everything is working with ray tracing now. We should have nice visuals and everything. You can also, in the sky and fog volume, you can add an ambient occlusion if you wanted to. using ray tracing. So that's going to give us a little bit more contact shadows. And of course, you can increase the intensity if you wanted to, but we don't want to overkill it. So I'm going to keep it as intensity of 0, and this gives us just a nice touch of contact shadows. Okay, and finally, I'm going to go to exposure, and I don't want any automatic exposure. I want to be able to control the exposure manually. So I'm going to set this one to fixed, and I'm going to compensate for an exterior lighting. So I'm going to set my exposure fixed to 13, and that's looking pretty good, right? And again, I don't care too much about the lighting here, but yeah, we are using a physical sky, a physical based sky, which works very nicely with this sun that we have here. But of course, you could use like a HDRI or whatever else you want. I'm just gonna keep it like this. Okay, great. So this is our scene. Everything seems. So let me just go to my Houdini project, geometry, and let's import this pool A. First of all, I'm going to go to model and set the scale factor to 100. Otherwise, it will come as a tiny thing from Houdini. Drag and drop this one here. And here we have the pool. Right, so these are the dummy materials that we created in Houdini. We don't want that. So I'm going to select the pool, go to materials, and here we have the border, the ground, the walls, and the water. I'm going to replace all of that with a gray material. Okay, great. So yeah, this is looking all good. I actually made a mistake. So let me go back to, I'm gonna get rid of this and get rid of this because I don't want to merge here the water. Okay, so yeah, I mean the colors are still good, right? So we have the same color for the walls, for the border, and for the ground, but let me use here another object merge, and I'm gonna get rid of everything but the walls now. Sorry, the water, because this needs to be a different geometry. So I'm just gonna re-export these as pool A and export this as pool A water surface. Okay, now we should be good. Going to import all of these again. Select both, go to model, set the scale to 100 and do that. Okay, great. Let's replace these materials as I was doing before. So I'm just gonna go to pool A over here and use these materials. All right, I don't really care too much about materials, but anyway, and this gray material, I'm gonna assign it also to the water surface, and I'm gonna hide the grade. Okay, great. So I'm gonna hide the water surface for a second, and actually, if I select my sky and fog volume, if I go to screen space, global illumination, let's see if we can get a little bit more bounciness in there. I don't think so, right? Let's do something like that. By the way, you know that in Unity, you can enable path tracing if you want, right? And that should give you a real path tracer, right? But we don't want to use path tracer here. So let me just disable path tracing. Actually, I'm going to remove it completely. Okay, so this is good. This is good. I'm going to create a new material, and this would be just for the walls of the pool. So I'm going to call this one tiles material, and I should be able to assign it just to the interior. Oh, actually, yeah, I made another mistake. I don't want to share material with the stairs. Or maybe I do. I remember seeing some pools where they have tiling in the stairs as well. Okay, let's leave it. Right. I do have a couple of textures here that I want to use. So I'm going to go to text and use these tile textures here. Go to tile materials. I'm going to set my... I didn't care too much about the UV mapping, even though I did a basic UV mapping. But of course, that's not going to work if we use the same... I don't remember about the textile density, so it's probably wrong. So let's stick to triplanar. That will be easier. And I'm going to use my base map there. Set my scale to something like, that's probably too big, right? Yeah. So maybe we want to use 2, maybe 3. Okay, let's do something like this. This might work. Yeah, that looks fine. Okay, I'm gonna set it like that. Perhaps my normal map. Let me set that one to normal map. Let me go back to my tiles material, and I'm gonna use my normal map here. Okay, and that gives me a little boost. Don't make this too obvious. Maybe 2 is fine actually. No, that looks too much. And the scale is definitely off, right? This should be smaller. But given that this is a little bit cartoonish, maybe I don't want to go. Let's do 0.4. I don't have a roughness map, so I might just do something around these lines. Okay, yeah, that looks decent. Of course, we can play a little bit with this sun here. I actually don't know if I want to. I want like a pretty strong sun. Well, let's see. I think this gray color, I'm gonna give it a little bit more of a white thingy, something like 70. Okay, and what else? Okay, that's all good. I'm not even gonna bother about using material for the rest of the stuff. I just want to have this tiling inside, just because, you know, that could play nicely with the water. And the only thing that I actually care is the water. I just wanted to play with the water a little bit, but it took me like 20 minutes to build a procedural tool to build pools. So let's go to edit, project settings, and let's go to high definition render pipeline. And here we should have a water section. Where was that thing? I saw that in the poke. Here, water. So let's go to water and enable water. Let's enable deformation as well, foam and exclusion. We're not going to use foam or exclusion in a pool. I guess we could, but not really. So that's it. Everything is enabled now. Now in the global volume, we also need to add a water rendering override. State is going to be enable. And as you can see here, we have all the couple of controls for level detail and ambient probe dimmer. Don't think we need to use those in this example, I mean. All right, so I'm gonna hide this for a second, because if you go to game object, 3D object, and or actually no, let's just go for the water. Let's go to game object water, and then we have a couple of options. Excluder, this is something that we will exclude water from, I guess, growing. I don't think growing is the right word for water, but you get the idea. You can exclude a section to not be water. We can use deformers, and this will help us to displace water based on deformers. We can use a foam generator, and we can use surfaces. I'm not going to take a look at the whole water system. You can read the ebook for that. I just want to make a pool. So we can have an ocean, sea, or lake, a pool, and a river. If we choose ocean, this will create an infinite ocean, right? So basically, whenever we look, we would have this very nice ocean that works very well. And you have multiple options here for the time multiplier. You have ripples, you have the tessellation factor as well, right? If you take a look at this is how it's been tessellated. You can tessellate it more to get more detail. And then of course you have like simulation settings here, like repetition, like the wind speed, the chaos, orientation, and whatnot. I mean, play with this because this is pretty cool. Then you can create like big ripples. And of course now we are inside of the water or underwater, but that is actually not happening. That's because we haven't enabled underwater. But here we should get like foam and everything. And you have like multiple levels, like the first band and the second band and ripples to create different looks, right? Play with it. It's very intuitive and it works as expected, I would say. We can enable deformation as well with multiple resolutions, which it might slow things up a little bit, but still looking pretty nice. Let's get the camera over there. And then, of course, you can change how everything looks in terms of smoothness, in terms of color, right? You have absorption parameters, you have the scattering color. This is the main component that we change the actual color of the ocean or the water system, right? So of course that's not gonna look much good. And then you can have controls for ambient, height. I mean, just play with everything. It's pretty cool. And of course you have the underwater, right? So once you enable underwater, then you would have options for underwater, and now you know you can basically be underwater, right? And there are options for the underwater wall and caustics and foam and a bunch of other things. So play with it. I just don't want to waste the time with this now because I just want to create a pool. I'm gonna go rid of that ocean. I'm gonna go again to water. Every single of these three surfaces, pool, rivers, or ocean or lakes, have a slightly different settings, but overall they are pretty much the same. So a river is more like a elongated shape instead of an infinite shape, and pool, if we create pool, is defined by a concrete surface. Okay, so as you can see, most of the settings are the same. But in my case, you can see that when you go to geometry type, oh, let me reset this, by the way. Okay. Let me create it again. game object, water, surface, pool. There you go. So I'm gonna set this to 0, 0, 0. Okay, perfect. Yep, that looks good. So when you go to geometry type, you can use a quad, an instance quad, or custom. Okay. Then when you go to mesh render, here you can select a mesh that is going to be used for rendering. That's what I wanted to export the pool individually, right? The water surface being one geometry and the rest of the pool being another geometry. Because now I can go to my pool water surface and use this object here. This needs to be used only for feeding this information, but we don't want to render this. So just disable that. And all of a sudden, we have a pool. Nice. That's right. Let me select my camera. And should I put this in a different monitor? Well, let's do it like this so we can all see what I'm doing. I'm just gonna rotate this thing here, put it there, rotate it like that. Yeah, let's do something like this. Whoops. Maybe I want to point down a little bit more because I actually want to see everything. Okay, so we play a little bit with the field of view or something. I think this is pretty okay. Okay, let's do something like that. Okay, where is this lighting coming from? Let's do something a little bit more sunny. All right, that looks decent. I don't have a great graphics card here, so we would have to actually play it to see it better. But anyway, let's play a little bit now with tessellation, right? If we increase the tessellation, we're gonna get more detail. Again, we can just go to wireframe. And oh yeah, this is not great. And this is probably, well, not probably, 100%, because my geometry is actually quite bad. So to fix that, I'm gonna get rid of, I'm gonna disable that. I'm gonna get rid of this water surface because I didn't care too much and I exported this, which is horrible. So let me use try divide. Maybe this one gives me something a little bit better. No, that's actually terrible. Can we remesh it? Let's remesh it. Can we do a quad remesh? Is this gonna work any good? No, horrible. What about this? Yeah, that looks much better. All right. Do we need that much geometry? No, but we don't care. So I'm gonna export that now. Gonna go back to my directory, to my geometry, and back to the water surface. There you go. We should scale this up. Great. Disable it. Go back to the water surface. Reconnect these, and that works better. What about this? Yeah, now we get that really nice tessellation, right? Probably too much. This is a cartoonish pool. We don't need this amount of tessellation. So let's do something like that, which is still probably too much, but anyway. What else can we do here? Simulation, wind speed, we want like a lot or just a little bit. Let's do something in between. So this one goes from 0 to 15. Can I go to 50? No. Let's split in the middle. 7. Okay. This might be good. I don't like the speculars there. Those speculars looks a little bit plasticky to me. So, do I care about the orientation? No, not really. This chaos thing will introduce, as it says, more chaos. So let's keep it. Let's enable deformation. Why not? This looks pretty good, actually. Yeah, I think it looks better when the sun actually hits the surface. So I think I'm going to do this. Yeah, that looks quite good. Okay, but what else can we do? Appearance. So this is what is going to change pretty much everything, right? I was complaining about the speculars. So can we make this a little bit more shiny? Okay, that's fine. How does it look from the game view? That looks pretty decent. Refraction. Can we make this? Yes. I want to make this clearer because this is a brand new pool. All right. So we go more turquoise or more bluish. Something in the middle. That looks cool. Maximum distance. Yeah, let's keep it a bit lower. Absorption. Yes, I love absorption. So basically, we can make it more murkier or clearer. And I think clearer looks much better. But of course, it depends on what you're doing. And that, of course, is in combination with what we do here, right? So if we can make something dirty, we can use absorption and scattering. But let's go back to this. Ambient. So here we can see, especially in the shadow area, how we can make it more opaque or less. So let's go for something like that. This would be, what is the high term? Okay, high base and okay, so the higher the vertical displacement, the more the water receives scattering. Of course, that's like a thin element in the surface scattering, right? We're good. I mean, this doesn't really change much because I guess we don't really have like waves or anything like that. Caustics. Let's make super high resolution caustics. Okay. I need to move to actually see everything updated. I mean, I can just drive around or whatever with a very slow camera. But we'll see better when we actually see the game view. This virtual plane distance, so basically, if we move this away or closer, so now this is closer and this is farther away, so you need to find the right balance here. So again, if I do 0, we don't see much. If I do 4, we are like, this is like a gobo, like it would be on top of the water surface. And here we have the tiling factor, and I think this is too big. I want to make this a bit more cartoonish, so maybe 1.5. This looks better. All right, cool. So we do underwater, yes. So for underwater, Oh, I'm going to enable screen space refraction as well. Foam, I don't want foam. I want a clean pool. So this bounding box, because I guess if I go inside, I'm with my Wacom and it's a little bit hard to drive. So let me go inside. Oh yeah, no, it's actually working already. Yeah. That's working very well. Okay, cool. Perfect. Because these bowling bombs is what would define the depth of the pool. So if you click here, you have it here. So that's what controls your bounding box. So yeah, we are inside of this bounding box, so things make sense. So just make sure that that bounding box is covering your scene. But yeah, this looks quite good. Okay, switching to my mouse now, so it's a bit easier. Yeah, here I guess I was outside of the bounding box, right? So yeah, that looks quite good. So now that I have the system in place, it should take me literally 10 seconds to create multiple variations of these pools very quickly. Everything is assigned. I just need to change a couple of things. And because I didn't build everything procedurally, you know, it takes me 5 seconds to do a couple of manual selections. I could improve that, of course. It will take me 20 minutes to figure it out. Yeah, we take all of that into Unity and same thing, right? All the materials and the water systems and everything will work as expected. So that will give us a very nice system to create pools, right? And again, if we go inside, where am I? I'm somewhere here. I should be able to have all the caustics and everything working perfectly fine. Okay, great, cool, fantastic. All right, so yeah, that was me doing stupid things just to check this water system. And of course we can have multiple looks for the different pools, but that is not the case in this example. All right, so let's play this again. Hopefully everything plays nicely. And you know, it's using ray tracing and everything, so things should be good. And of course, we can just go here and change any of these. That's the tessellation factor, so that's not gonna change much. But what about these? Yeah, that is that pool over there. So let's make this one a little bit more opaque or something. Yeah, I don't know. Play with it till you find something that you like.